All right, let's dive into it. The NBA season is creeping up on us, just a few short weeks away. And if you thought the Celtics were about to have a quiet lead-up, think again. Because our guy Jason Tatum decided to light the fuse early, going on what can only be described as a full-blown media blitz. He didn't just drop one interview or make one social post. No, this man hit every platform like he was running for office or launching a Netflix docuseries. Good Morning America, People Magazine, ESPN. You name it, he was there, talking, reflecting, and sending shockwaves through Celtics Nation. And let's just say, this wasn't your average round of interviews. Tatum wasn't on some polished PR campaign with generic updates about how rehab is going great and he's taking it one day at a time. Nah, he was raw, honest, emotional even. In one moment, he's brushing off the idea of Boston tanking the season. In the next, he's admitting he sat and cried for 2 hours after the injury, wondering if his career was over, if he was going to get traded, if all his endorsement deals were about to vanish. That's not just vulnerability. It's a window into the mind of a franchise player facing the unthinkable. And you got to give it to him. When he says, "I don't go to rehab 6 days a week for nothing," that hits different. That's not a throwaway line. That's someone telling the world, "I didn't just roll over when my Achilles popped. I've been grinding behind the scenes. And if there's even a sliver of a chance I can get back on the court this year, I'm going to take it." Now, obviously, that doesn't guarantee he'll be back. But the fact that he's saying it publicly, loud and clear, across multiple platforms, that means something. You don't make those kinds of rounds unless you truly believe it's on the table. You don't stir that pot unless you're ready to serve something. But now here's where it gets spicy. What's going on behind closed doors in Boston's front office? Is Brad Stevens sitting in his office watching these interviews, thinking, "Jason, slow down, man. Let's manage expectations"? Or is the organization quietly backing him, knowing the rehab is ahead of schedule, that the reports from his doctor are legit, and maybe, just maybe, they're already planning for a spring surprise? Because I'm telling you right now, if this is all just smoke with no fire, Celtics fans are about to be more emotionally wrecked than they were after Game 7 against Miami. And listen, we've seen this movie before. When Tatum opened up about how devastated he was after the injury, the crying, the anxiety, the fear of being traded, it brought back memories. Celtics fans remember the Isaiah Thomas situation all too well. Dude played through a busted hip, gave everything he had in a playoff run, and the next thing you know, boom, shipped off to Cleveland, and his career never fully recovered. Boston sports, man, it's brutal. Cold. Business first. So it's not crazy for Tatum to think that way, especially in those first 48 hours after the injury when everything's raw and uncertain. But here's where things flip. Fast forward to now, and this isn't a guy wallowing in doubt. This is a guy whose doctor is raving about his progress, saying his calf is one of the strongest he's seen, saying that at 6 or 8 weeks post-surgery, Tatum was already doing double heel rises. For those of you unfamiliar with rehab benchmarks, that's wild. That's not standard. That's not on track. That's ahead of the curve. His surgeon, Dr. Martin O'Malley, basically said he's not just healing well, he's pushing limits. That's the kind of update that should make every team in the Eastern Conference a little bit nervous. And what really stood out, too, is how Tatum reacted when asked about the idea of the Celtics tanking. Malik Andrews threw it at him straight. What are your thoughts on the Celtics mailing it in this year to focus on next season? And Tatum didn't dodge it. He didn't give a corporate answer. He straight up said that's not how the Celtics are built. That's not how this organization operates. And he's right. Joe Mazzulla is not a guy who tanks. He doesn't know how to coach that way. That's not in his DNA. This team doesn't roll over just because things get tough. So now let's play this out. Imagine a scenario where the Celtics hover around the middle of the East. Maybe they're the 6th seed. Maybe they slip to 7 or 8. But they stay competitive, don't bottom out, don't give up on the season. Then as we hit March, boom, Tatum's back. That's not a feel-good story. That's a playoff nightmare for whoever's sitting up top in the East. Can you imagine being the Knicks or Cavs, grinding all season for that top seed, and your first-round reward is a full-strength Tatum and a pissed-off Celtics squad with nothing to lose? And if Tatum really is targeting a March return, it's not just any date. His birthday is March 3rd. And while the Celtics don't have a home game that exact night, they're at TD Garden the next day, March 4th, against the Charlotte Hornets. You're telling me that doesn't sound like a potential return party? Lights down, crowd buzzing, Tatum back in green. That's box office. That's chills. And if you're thinking this is just fan fiction, don't forget, we've seen this movie before. Klay Thompson's return. That emotional night when he came back after back-to-back devastating injuries. That first dunk. The roar of the crowd. These moments matter. They're bigger than basketball. And if Tatum's really gearing up for something like that, the league better pay attention. Because the Celtics might be limping now, but all they need is a healthy JT, and suddenly the narrative flips. Now let's zoom out just a little. Because it's not just about Tatum. The East is already getting weird. News just dropped that Darius Garland might be out longer than expected. That's a huge blow to the Cavs, who were banking on making a real leap this year. Every week that passes, the field gets shakier. And that's before we even mention teams like the Heat, who still haven't figured out their identity post-Damian Lillard drama, or the Bucks, who are trying to hold it together while Giannis basically plays with a G League supporting cast. The door is open. It's not wide open, but it's cracked. And here's the thing. Even if the Celtics don't finish top 4, even if they limp into the playoffs as a 7 seed or squeak through the play-in, the moment Tatum suits up again, all bets are off. You think any top team wants that smoke in the first round? Hell no. Tatum coming back with fresh legs and something to prove is a recipe for chaos. Sprinkle in Jaylen Brown, sprinkle in some hot shooting from Sam Hauser or Peyton Pritchard, and suddenly Boston becomes the one team nobody wants to face. Because now they've got house money. No expectations. Just vibes and violence. And speaking of vibes, did y'all see Skinny Zion? Man looks like he finally found a nutritionist and a therapist, and both are working overtime. He's saying stuff like it feels good to feel good, and talking about how he's finally taking care of his body and his mind. Look, I know this has nothing to do with the Celtics, but I can't ignore it. Zion Williamson looking locked in is a huge storyline. His contract is still flexible, his trade value is still volatile, and his ceiling, well, we've all seen what he's capable of when he's right. All right, so now that we've wrapped our heads around the idea that Jason Tatum could be on a legitimate path to returning this season, and not just returning, but doing in theatrical fashion, let's talk about what that means for this roster and where the Celtics actually stand right now. Because even if we're all a little giddy with hope, it's time for some real talk. This isn't the same Boston team we've seen over the past few years. There's no safety net. No Marcus Smart to set the emotional tone. No Horford to stabilize things in the locker room. No PORZINN'IS to stretch the floor and give you a go-to option at the 5. It's bare bones in some spots. And if anything, that makes the possibility of a Tatum return even more impactful. The guard rotation is holding up, but barely. You've got Derek White, who's been rock solid and continues to be one of the most underrated two-way players in the league. Peyton Pritchard has shown flashes. He's scrappy, he's got range, he's a fan favorite. But you can only expect so much from a guy who, on most teams, would be your 7th or 8th man. After that, you're diving into the unknown. J.D. Davison, maybe Banton gets real minutes. Maybe Hugo starts cracking the rotation. But none of those guys have proven anything at the NBA level. You're hoping for growth, not counting on it. The wing depth? It's thin. Jaylen Brown obviously carries a massive load, and if there's ever been a year for him to remind people why he's a cornerstone, this is it. But behind him, it's basically Sam Hauser. To be fair, has developed into a legit role player with deep range and decent team defense, and a bunch of question marks. Chris Boucher might give you something. Maybe Jordan Walsh takes a leap. Maybe Josh Minott gets some real developmental minutes. But you're talking about a team that, outside of its top 3 or 4 guys, is filled with uncertainty. And then there's the bigs. Man, it gets bleak fast. We're looking at guys like Xavier Tillman, Nemias Quetta, maybe Luka Garza if he sticks around. None of those names strike fear in anybody's heart. They're serviceable, sure, but they're not moving the needle. And when you start projecting playoff matchups against teams like the Cavaliers with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, or even the Bucks if Giannis gets any kind of support, it becomes clear how much Boston has lost in the physicality department. Losing Horford hurts more than people realize. He wasn't just a veteran leader. He was the guy who could slide to the 4 or the 5 and defend anyone. Those players don't grow on trees. So if this team is going to make any noise, even with a potential Tatum return, it needs a shot in the arm. That brings us to the trade talk that's starting to swirl again. Bill Simmons has been throwing out names like candy, and while a lot of it feels like fantasy GMing, some of the suggestions actually make sense when you look at what the Celtics are missing. He brought up Houston as a team to watch, and it tracks. The Rockets are suddenly in a weird spot. They just lost Fred VanVleet. They've got a bunch of young guards who don't necessarily fit together, and they're overloaded with draft picks and flexibility. If they're looking to consolidate some of that youth or flip a veteran contract, the Celtics could be a sneaky landing spot, especially if Boston's front office sees a window opening up later in the season. Some of the names Simmons threw out, guys like Ayo Dosunmu from the Bulls, Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans, and even TJ McConnell from the Pacers. These aren't stars, but they're plug-and-play guys who could bring some much-needed stability to Boston's second unit. Dosunmu has size, defends well, and can play either guard spot. Alvarado's a pest, an energy guy who brings grit and chaos, which the Celtics are sorely lacking right now. And McConnell? Man, you can laugh at the name, but he's been doing work in Indiana for years. He runs the offense, plays hard, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. That's exactly what you want in a playoff rotation. But the real wild card here is Peyton Pritchard. Simmons floated his name as a possible trade chip, and it makes sense. He's young, he's cheap, he's under contract for a few more seasons, and he's shown he can knock down big shots and push the pace. Houston could absolutely use a guy like that, especially as they figure out what to do with Amen Thompson and Reed Shepherd. But do the Celtics actually pull the trigger? It's hard to say. On one hand, Pritchard might be one of the few guys on this roster who has real trade value. On the other, he's one of the few bench players who's proven he can handle the moment. It's a classic dilemma. Do you hold on to the known quantity, or do you flip it in hopes of a bigger piece down the line? And that's the thing. Boston isn't in full rebuild mode. They're in this weird in-between space where they're trying to stay competitive while missing their superstar. They've got just enough talent to hang around, but not enough depth to make a real run without some reinforcements. That's why every front office conversation over the next few months is going to revolve around one question. How close is Tatum? Really? If he's trending toward a March return, and the team is floating around .500, it might be worth it to ride it out and see what happens. But if the wheels start to fall off, if they slide to 10th or 11th in the standings, you better believe the phones are going to start ringing. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Boston fans might want to buckle up because the NBA rumor mill is swirling with what could be one of the biggest shakeups of the season. Word on the street is that the era of Kevin Porter Jr., no, wait, KP, at Boston might be over. Sources hint that the towering pivot is packing his bags and preparing to leave the storied Celtics behind. While nothing has been officially confirmed, insiders are whispering that the move isn't just about a change of scenery. It's about forming a potentially fearsome new duo. The buzz is that KP could soon be teaming up with none other than Giannis Antetokounmpo, the reigning superstar whose name alone sends shivers down defenders' spines. Imagine the possibilities. Giannis slicing through defenses with his usual blend of agility and power, now paired with a pivot who could anchor the paint, grab rebounds, and provide that inside scoring threat Boston fans have been growing accustomed to seeing. The chemistry? It's anyone's guess, but the mere thought has already set social media aflame. Fans are debating lineups, imagining pick and rolls, alley-oops, and the kind of highlight reels that could redefine the Eastern Conference. If this move materializes, it could also signal a major shift in team strategies. Boston would need to rethink its roster construction, while Giannis' current squad might be bracing for a shakeup of its own. Analysts are speculating about the impact on defensive schemes, rotation patterns, and even MVP race narratives. Some are skeptical, pointing out contract hurdles and salary cap logistics, but rumors have a way of taking on a life of their own, and this one is generating plenty of heat. For now, The rumor is just that, a rumor, but the NBA universe thrives on whispers, speculations, and the thrill of what if. The notion of KP leaving Boston to join forces with Giannis is enough to get fans, pundits, and even casual viewers buzzing. Could this be the start of a new powerhouse pairing in the league? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The chatter isn't fading anytime soon. Celtics fans may be nervous. Giannis fans are dreaming. And the rest of the NBA, well, they might just be holding their breath. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.